I don't think this is no more an objective. Just I want to climb well, but that's not exactly the same as doing the hardest route you can do.
Rock climbing. It takes us to places and situations distinct from those of everyday life. It puts us in settings where we feel our own strength and that of the natural environment. It introduces us to diverse people. Reaching into the life beyond the crag, climbing weaves itself into the identity of those who experience it. At its core, climbing is a practice of movement, a free-form experience drawing from a broad spectrum of the body's abilities. But equally, climbing moves the mind. By demanding fluidity, precise movement, and competent decision-making in situations involving fatigue, intimidation, or genuine risk, climbing poses a dilemma. The responses that undeveloped instincts pull us toward inhibit climbing ability. The responses we desire are the hardest to muster in the situations climbing presents us with. This ongoing tension between the responses our instincts pull us toward and those we can create through a careful process of intention is a source of climbing's intrigue. In the words of 1993 German champion Mariette Uden, "Mostly I climb on intuition. This, for me, is the optimum state. When I see, grab, step without thinking, it flows."
Eigentlich so mehr intuitiv unterwegs.
Ja.
Also, und das ist auch für mich das Optimale beim Klettern, wenn ich nichts mehr denke. Wenn ich irgendwie nur noch sehe, greife, trete und also wenn es fließt.
Ja.
Nur noch viel nachdenken.
Ja.
Her words point towards a reason for seeking improvement, toward the motivation for what Marc Le Ménestrel described earlier as his objective of climbing well. Improvement leads not simply to higher numbers and smaller holds, but to a qualitatively different experience. It's not a question of the difficulty of the routes you do, or your performance relative to other climbers, but rather the inevitable richness that comes as you gain tiny increments of mastery over something so hard to master. You sense this when you're working on a difficult move, and you find a subtle shift in the body that replaces grimace with grace. You see it more clearly on the days when experience shows itself. Your climbing clicks, and you feel smooth and fluid on moves that normally require excessive effort. You know it in your heart on those rare and precious days when the many skills climbing demands come together at once, weaving preparation and spontaneity together into one unforgettable ascent. Yet these moments are rare. As Germany's top red point climber Andy Hoffman puts it, so many things have to fit together. You have to have the right body, the right head. It all has to fit together.
Da kommt so viel zusammen, da brauchst du das Hirn dazu, da brauchst ja, das muss eben alles passen.
In sports like cycling or running that involve the repetition of relatively few movements over and over, it's easier to predict one's performance. But on rock, so many factors contribute to climbing well. The unusual challenges that Udo encounters during this climb are unlike those on other routes. Finding his way through the labyrinth of stalactites is about as far away from the polished granite domes of slab climbing as a Mormon missionary from NWA. Yet both these extremes lie within the range of challenges climbers make their own. Since climbs routinely surprise us with unexpected styles of moves, the challenge of climbing is inevitably a challenge of learning to master diversity in technique and skill. Thus, climbing well, by necessity, involves learning to climb well on many different types and angles of rock. You don't want to be able to do a one-arm pull-up on a finger edge, then fail on a 5-7 friction climb. This diversity can make climbing more frustrating and mysterious than other endeavors.
That's why you can get so frustrated on a rig like that, because you fall off and you just look down at what you've climbed to get there. And you look at your fingers and you look at how much skin you've lost to get there.
And you think about the hike that you hiked over there every day.
Yeah, or the trip that you made to Smith Rocks, and how many rest days it's going to take. And you go, man, I paid such a high price for the chance of these last 3 moves, you know?
But climbing isn't satisfying despite its frustrations. It is rewarding because of them. The complexity that makes it possible to sometimes fail when you expected to succeed, and to succeed when you expected to fail, renders proficiency at any level at once elusive and priceless. If climbing well means mastering diversity, then the expert climber is the one with the fewest weaknesses, the climber most comfortable in diverse terrain. The adept climber doesn't get stumped by a sequence simply because it doesn't suit him. In what follows, we present the views of climbers themselves. Their words paint a picture of the sport's participants. We'll leave it to you to extract what you're ready to bring into your climbing.
Strong, send it first. If you send it third try, fourth try, you hate yourself. You have to do it immediately because it's painful, like a rock climb. It's really painful.
So rock climbs are painful, huh?
Yeah, they're not fun.
This is more fun.
You can make plastic funner than rock because you can train on it longer, but that's not how rock climbing is. Rock climbing is pain.
Huh.
What is the diversity of climbing? The climbing environment is constantly changing. The rock varies, the holds change, the texture can be slippery or grainy, crisp or biting. Even the light, the wind, and terrain that frame our climbs are never twice the same. Equally, the internal environment climbers bring to the cliff varies from person to person.
I think you need to enjoy what you are doing. If it's become too hard, it's not good.
Your mindset determines your results. In many ways, what you expect from climbing is what you get out of it. When Udo arrived at this area along the coast of France, he and his partners were captivated by the unusual beauty of this recently discovered climbing area. He was drawn to the unusual lines the climbs took, and before knowing anything about them, he simply wanted to climb them. But it turned out the average difficulty of the climbs here were quite hard for him. By igniting a desire to climb and to be in an area, experiences like this fuel the desire to improve. You don't need to get better to enjoy the many satisfactions of climbing, but improving broadens the range of experiences available to you. You can develop your coordination and technique. You can build your strength. You can fortify your body for the special needs of a particular type of climbing, and learn to find mental balance within an unstable environment. And through this process, improve your ability to climb regardless of circumstance. As such, the richness and depth of the experience grows with ability.
I'm improving. I take more and more pleasure climbing. That's what's important.
Learning to climb well is a lifelong quest. For while physical aspects may not move steadily forward for a lifetime, many factors more central to climbing performance can. One's technique and balance may continue improving at any age, and one's knowledge of the self and its changing states of readiness for rock always grows with experience. Here, Gunda Fruwald, 1992 German climbing champion, mother of 10 years, and last summer, the first woman to climb 513C in Germany's power-demanding Frankenjura, explains.
What do you think about the common belief that athletes reach their peak with the age of 25?
If you can do it, I was probably too late.
How old are you?
42.
And what do you think? What does the future hold for you?
For now it's going well. Otherwise I just have to climb easier. But I'm confident that I can still improve.
Do you feel that you have any disadvantages since you're older?
No, for me personally, I don't think so. I'm feeling fit, in great shape, and I will improve.
Nö, also. Habe ich nicht den Eindruck.
Consider Jacques Le Ménestrel, who, in the following cut, climbs a V7 in Fontainebleau.
Allez Jacques. Allez Jacques. Allez. Woohoo!
Since Jacques started climbing in the 1950s, climbing has experienced dramatic changes. As climbing evolved, so did Jacques, who can now make hard boulder problems in Fontainebleau look like a walk in the park.
To take a closer look at improving, we've chosen competition as a model with which we can examine the different factors that contribute to climbing performance. By allowing a comparison of climbers on the same route, the same day, in the same conditions, competitions allow us to sort the foundations of performance from the frill. In competition, a course setter, like Jibi Tribeau here at Arco, designs routes to challenge competitors. Ideally, a route's moves present a wide array of technique challenges at roughly the same difficulty. That way, competitors fall off at different points according to their weaknesses.
Bloc. Ah putain, il marche pas ce mouvement.
What's the problem?
The hole is not in good position.
But the move to the hold is cool.
Yeah, this move is very cool, but after the cross is too hard.
Yeah.
There is one thing is missing, or one foot or something is missing, so something is wrong. Anyway, you will see the roof is very nice.
Competitors assemble from around the world, bringing the unique style and approach that their home area has cultivated. The competition is a judgment day, separating wheat from chaff, fact from facade, the world class from the local heroes. Here, 16-year-old Pavel Samoyin, junior world champion, previews the routes before the finals of the 1991 World Championships in Frankfurt.
Почему вправо? Левой. С правой раз. А иначе ты сюда ткнула. Тут подхват, да. Левой, правой, вверх. Вверх, там. Менять руки, что ли? Вообще кошмар.
The challenge of building a competition route is making a fair division of the climbers according to their skill. Ideally, only one reaches the top. But if one can reach the top, it might be too easy, and the second place climber makes it also. It's such a fine line between too easy and too hard.
eine sehr schwierige Route bauen und wahrscheinlich ist es, dass vielleicht sogar niemand zum Gipfel kommt.
In the following section, we'll compare Japanese Yuji Hirama and Frenchman Francois Legrand on the same route, showing them side by side as they climb the men's final route. Before competitors climb, they wait in isolation, so each attempts the route on site. They'll climb one after another, according to the order of their performance during earlier rounds. During the tense wait, competitors prepare themselves mentally and deal with the pressure of knowing they have but one attempt. Below, the climbers will track the duration of time elapsed for each, from the last good holds they left 25 feet above the ground.
Here they are, Yuji on the left and Francois on the right. "40 feet from the route's start, they climb the first crux across an overhanging traverse midway through the route. Francois makes a long cross, turns toward the audience to minimize his swing coming out of it, and goes immediately into a figure 4 to economize strength for the long reach that follows. Yuji misses Francois' crossover and climbs back and forth before opting for a slower sequence involving a strenuous match. This match was the downfall of competitors like Didier Rabutu earlier in the competition. At the end of the traverse are holds offering a chance at recomposure before the honeycomb wall, stalactite roof, and final head wall ahead. Since Francois finishes the traverse faster, we'll freeze him here and wait for Yuji to catch up. After battling with the match, Yuji struggles to reset his left hand and dynos the long reach. Iron crossed between the two holds, he falls onto his right hand. Later, he clips from a less efficient position before finding the heel hook rest that Francois assumed immediately. Note that Yuji spent an extra minute and 20 seconds on the strenuous overhanging traverse.
Watching Francois, one thing becomes clear. He moves quickly, decisively, and makes the fewest movement errors. In climbing, the summed effect of tiny movement mistakes or inefficiencies adds up fast. The best climber is not necessarily stronger than the rest, he's the one who makes the fewest movement errors. It's the choice of moves and positions and the speed with which they're chosen that separate climbers. It nearly always feels like you fall off because your finger's open or you can't hold the hold. Leaving it at that, however, misses the essence of climbing. Whether your finger's open or not depends on how you move and how efficiently you've gotten to where you are on a route. Climbing is a movement-centered sport.
As they move into the honeycomb wall, Francois takes advantage of the dihedral for a more efficient reach and clip. Yuji climbs the overhanging honeycomb wall alone and clips from a more strenuous position. The dihedral stem takes weight off his hands and offers a moment of respite after the clip. Yuji thus climbs slightly quicker to the stalactite roof, motivated more by the urgency of fatigue than the resolve of strategy. He's spent almost 2 minutes more on the strenuous 13C route at this point. Although we criticize Yuji's mistakes, it's important to note that he's probably the world's second best competition climber. In fact, no other competitors reached this point on the route. But his mistakes in this competition shed light on critical aspects of climbing performance and on the nature of climbing in general. Yuji's sweat reveals the extreme fatigue he now faces. Lactic acid, passing the blood-brain barrier, interferes with his coordination and his cognitive abilities. The extra time he's spent on the route now has caught up with him. Both competitors struggle with the unusual feature in the roof. Yuji starts at the final head wall and changes his mind to return for a last chance rest. Francois makes the clip from the stalactite. Almost forgetting to clip, Yuji does so from a strenuous undercling. The difficulties of the final moves are too much for Yuji in this state of fatigue. Francois climbs on to become the first official world champion. The extreme power endurance required on a route like this leads to a buildup of lactic acid that interferes not only with coordination and cognitive abilities, as mentioned, but also with maximum strength and flexibility. This makes power endurance the most difficult issue to manage in physical training.
Wenn ihr den Weg des geringsten Widerstandes, wenn ihr den Weg des geringsten Widerstandes, wenn ihr den Weg des geringsten Widerstandes, wenn ihr den Weg des geringsten Widerstandes,
finish like that, and you have a rhythm, how you have to push, tempo, how you have to push on your foot in order to not slip, and that's fun. That's not. I think it counts a lot.
der Kletterer eine neue Linie erschließt.
Good on rock as you climb in here?
Yeah, definitely.
How come?
Because this is where I learned how, and I haven't learned how to rock climb as well. This is a totally different thing right here.
Well, why
I need
is
to
it
spend more
different?
time rock climbing because it's easier to read. It's less subtle. There's not as many tricks. Rock climbing, you have to work your feet a lot more, unless you can learn how to figure out the plastic. So it's like rock climbing. Like this problem is like rock climbing because the feet are difficult and the body positions are difficult. And it's painful. Like you get in positions you don't like, and you have to get out of them fast. So it's not fun. A lot of the problems you do in here are really fun. Good holds, far apart, or small holds close together with good feet. But it's not like rock climbing. But it becomes more transferable to the rock because I spent 3 years in here climbing on pleasant holds, like good holds, fun moves, you know. But you go to the rock and it's always like really drutchy, you know. It's not positive. It's always not fun. But you have to learn how to do that. When you go on site, you have to do stuff that does not feel good. You don't always have a good undercling. It's not a power thing. It's not always like, can you lock this off to here? It's like, how accurate are you when you're in pain? Can you stick it even though you're in pain? You know, no matter how crimped your fingers are or how bad your feet are, you have to like know that no matter how painful it is, you're going to have to grab it and pull off of it to do the route, or you might as well go home. No one's creative enough to do what happens on the rock. No one gets that creative. Nobody has the energy to put into plastic that's already out there on the rock. Besides, it's only plywood. Plywood and plastic, you know, it's not, there's no real challenge because it's always someone else making it up. It's not nature against you, it's not random. It's very, I mean, you always know how good the holds are. There's always good texture on it, you know. You go on rock climbs and the holds are really slippery and they're always like, not really good. You know, you can't do that in here. Nobody has fun on it, so they go, let's grab good holds, you know, it's just as good. But bouldering on rock is the best, for sure. Because you always get stuff that's gymnastic-like plastic, but it's also more random and harder to predict, you know. In here, if there's something that's too hard for me to do, I just do something else, which is bad for me. I need to learn to do everything, you know. Just learning moves, no matter how stupid they feel, or how impossible. Like this move took about an hour and a half to figure out the movement to do it, but at first it felt impossible, absolutely impossible, you know. And that's how rock climbing is. Sometimes you go to a rock climb on a move, even on easier routes, and it feels stupid. Like you can't believe that it's been done, and you think you'll never be able to do it. And then once you learn the body position or the timing or the speed, then you know that it's not that bad. It's just how everybody else does it, you know. You can be strong, but if you don't know how to use it, then it's pointless. If you can't keep your shit together when you're in pain, then you might as well go home, you know? Like it doesn't matter how strong you are.
Okay, you can see the dolphin. Down there in the field, to the right of that blue tank.
Mike just offered a perspective on the contrast between indoor bouldering and outdoor climbing. Now Dale Goddard and Martin Yoyston prepare to climb Rapture of the Deep at Idaho City of Rocks. There are many different styles of climbing movement determined by the rock on which they take place. This route involves excessive crimping on relatively small edges with blank rock between. The climbing emphasizes long locks, high steps, and dynamic moves. In a few moments, we'll look at other types of rock that demand different climbing techniques. In Fontainebleau, for example, the only way to succeed on many of the boulders is with a precise, controlled style. Thus, the boulder problems, rated B7 to B12 on the Waco-Take scale, that Marc Lemenestrel and his father, Jacques, demonstrate in a moment will look easy. They simply cannot be done in another style. On J.B. Tribeau's long project, Bronx, which we'll see later, however, the biggest challenge is maintaining good technique despite a growing fatigue over the course of the route. In the final scene within this technique section, Dale Goddard will demonstrate a training exercise using closed eyes to develop spatial awareness. First, let's look at some of the underlying principles of coordination and technique. At every instant, whether we are moving or not, our brains receive sensory feedback from our limbs. These signals come from nerves in our muscles, tendons, joints, and skin, and tell the brain about muscle contractions, body positions, and forces acting on us. This constant stream of kinesthetic information is the source of our body awareness and allows the brain to oversee and control movement. Moves that are quick and precise, like this crux move of Rapture, exceed the brain's capacity to control simply by monitoring feedback from the body. So instead, the brain executes them by recalling moves from memory in packets known as engrams. Different climbers bring to the crag different repertoires of engrams based on their experience. Thus, Martin finds a different sequence at the crux. He finds a drop knee position to the left, saving 3 strenuous moves. The best climbers are those with the broadest repertoires of moves. They can adapt to the different styles of climbing.
what I could say, it's not a particular Fontainebleau just to have power. You can climb in Fontainebleau with a lot of power, and you don't need a lot of technique if you want. But you can also climb in Fontainebleau in a different manner, where you try to be technical. And my father when he teaches us climbing, the game was to put as much power on your feet than that you're just at the limit where the foot is going to slip. You just have to push on your foot, just the stronger you can. And if you slipped, that was too much. But you are always at the limit of slipping of your feet. So you do that, and after the rest, the power, the weight you can't put on your feet, you just have to put it on your finger. But that's the second step. First is just to push on your feet, and that's why we did some one-hand problems with my father or my sister or my brother or other friend of mine that have been climbing in Fontainebleau for a lot of years, for many years, and these people are more interested in making moves, having fun with climbing, and not just making hard problem. This is not the most important always. You just have to do the hardest for you. That's exactly the objective of the game. The game is just to you have to use your foot, your finger only if you can't put weight on your feet. And the more weight you put on your feet, the better you are. So when I climb with my father or with Laurent Darlot, for example, it's usually they climb better than me, because sometimes my father put more weight on his feet than me. So for me, I'm learning a lot of things just looking at my father or looking at other friends that perhaps they don't make 8B or 8A problem in Fontainebleau. There's no 8B at all, but they climb better because they can just use more the horns than me. The power is just above that, after technique, after concentration. The rest, you use power. But the least you use, the better you are.
J'ai l'habitude j'ai connu qui avait raté le lancer. C'est vrai qu'il faut
Il y avait un peu de silence. Quelle bande de cons.
Ok.
Tu veux faire quoi? Dans l'abattoir?
And you also think that for a problem like L'Ange Naïve, there's still an advantage that you stand on your feet well and that the technique is right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's perhaps nobody will trust me, but I don't care. That's not only just being snub about technique. It's you have these two hedges for your feet, and the way you're going to push on your feet is really important, because that's the power you can go to the top. And it's the way the foot is used is not just simply you put your foot and you push on it. You have to have a move with this part of the foot, just to begin like that and to finish like that. And you have a rhythm, how you have to push, tempo, how you have to push on your foot in order to not slip. And that's fun. That's not, I think it counts a lot. It counts a lot.
When Gilbert Tribault first made the moves on his longtime project Bronx, they caused a sequence of nerve impulses unique to each movement to occur in his brain. After repeating each movement several times, that pattern of impulses became ingrained in memory and stored as a motor engram. Engrams contain the directions to reproduce living versions of moves stored in memory and act as packets of preset muscle instructions to reproduce each particular move. The Performance Rock Climbing book offers a more complete presentation on motor control. The moves on Bronx are so difficult that they can only be made with near-perfect technique. The challenge of such a route is knowing the moves well enough that even the technique-crippling element of fatigue cannot undermine the ability to execute them properly.
For me, I try to, when I pont, I try to stay technique, to keep a good technique, because like that in your mind, you stay technique when you are pont, and it's very important, I think, for inside or even after work. But it's the most difficult thing to do.
Since it can replace thousands of conscious signals, using engram memory to control his moves makes it unnecessary for Gilbert to constantly monitor all of the kinesthetic feedback from his body and send out corrected signals. Gilbert climbs smoother, quicker, and he can make more complex movements, with still enough free consciousness to oversee his fatigue, time his brief rests, and adjust his strategies for the pitch as a whole. This explains why hard red point performances are characterized by a quiet mind and a sensation that things are accomplished without thinking about it. Although the routes and boulders we're showing are extremely hard, and the climbers are among the best, the lessons here are applicable to climbers of all levels. We've chosen hard routes for the video because they allow a smaller range of technique solutions. On moderate routes, a good climber could demonstrate an inefficient technique and make it appear appropriate, but it wouldn't necessarily be the best or most correct technique for that move. When Gilbert falls in a moment, it's not that he's too tired to hold on. He's too tired to use a technique that allows him to climb efficiently and within his strength limitations. When he retries the move after resting on the rope, Gilbert positions himself closer to the wall and sags lower before initiating the momentum that'll carry him to his target hold. We've chosen top climbers because they have the broadest repertoire of techniques to show, and we filmed them on routes at their limit to guarantee that the techniques they use are the most appropriate for the moves they're on. The fact that the climbers make their routes look easy is not inconsistent with their extreme difficulty. A movement that looks more graceful generally is more efficient. Thus, the hardest moves require a technique that appears aesthetic and light. A move that looks hard cannot be near one's limit.
You know, it's going to make a difference whether you know even the really subtle things that your body does, or whether you do them unconsciously. You know, if you don't know it that well and you wait until you're in progress on a move to think about where your foot hangs when the other foot's on a hold and when that foot's not on a hold, it's going to take an instant longer to really make the move and, you know, get the foot there and make the move. If you know that, oh yeah, I set my right foot on the hold and then my left foot flags out left and just props against the wall, if you know that in advance, then as soon as you make the move preceding it, that foot's already on the way and going over there, and it really, you know, it's just another instant saved. And you know, if you add up a couple hundred instants like that saved over the course of a route, it's big time savings. And you know, on a route where it's steep like that, time is everything when you're on the strenuous sections.
Yeah.
basically what I look for. Like this one's really good because you have to move your hips at the same time. And so many times I feel like when I do dynos, if I'm nervous or uptight or run out or whatever, I tend to only move a certain part of my body, like my arm, the arm that's making the dyno, or maybe just my upper body. And it's because, when you get nervous or you get uptight, I contract unnecessary muscles, and that's why I like hold my legs tight, or my abdomen is like cinched tight. And if you're moving like that, if you're not fluid, it totally cuts down your reach, it cuts down your ability to get there efficiently. So I'll do this one a couple times. Open eyes to get the feel, and then see if I can close my eyes. We all have a lot of spatial awareness, and the problem is we're used to using our eyes as a real crutch for that, when we also have awareness that comes from our body. And for example, you're driving. You don't have to look down to grab the gear shift, because after you've driven your own car for long enough, you just know where it is. You know it in your body. Your arm knows exactly where to go. And if you train that sense in your climbing, you can develop that ability to the point where you can look at holds and then know where they are, even though you might not have done them before. You can look at them, you size up the whole spatial arrangement, and then your body knows where they are. And once you've got that, you can move faster, you can have more precision when you're going to holds, because you're using both your eyes and that sense, that body sense of where they are. What makes this one hard is that you have to be pretty accurate to get into this 2-finger pocket. And also, since the wall is a little overhanging, you don't have nearly as much time as you have on a vertical wall. On a vertical wall, you can kind of feel around and find your way into the pocket on the way out, when you're not looking. On here, you do a little bit of that, but you have a lot less time, so it just makes you have to be that much more precise in knowing where you're reaching. And basically, the idea is that you do it a couple times with your body. You build up your own body awareness of where the holds are in space. And then, to solidify that and to get a feel for it, with your closed eyes, you do it again. And then you're relying on this picture in your mind, this 3-dimensional picture of where things are. And you can also feel a lot of things with your eyes closed that you just don't notice with your eyes open. You really feel how fluid the movement is through your whole body. When your eyes are open, it tends to focus your awareness just on what you're looking at, because you're getting so much information from that. So when your eyes are open, you tend to have a lot more focus on what your arms are doing, how you're grabbing the holds, what you're doing from here out, because that's what's in your field of view. When you're doing it with your eyes closed, your whole body is in your field of view, because you're using that mind image of where things are. So it really helps you make the move efficiently with your whole body. Then is to do it for a few more moves, so that you're projecting your spatial awareness even farther. And it's helpful for remembering how moves feel. It's really helpful for, when you're rehearsing a route, you're trying to go over it in your mind, practice it accurately. This kind of thing gives you practice in knowing how moves feel. And, in addition to stuff that we were doing before, where you're really getting precise with remembering where holds are in space. What I like to do is kind of early in the season, I'll do a lot of 30-minute sessions on the wall, 30 minutes of uninterrupted climbing. And most of the time I'll just do that bouldering, because it's hard to belay, to get a belayer to do that without falling asleep. But they're really good for a lot of reasons, but they do last 30 minutes, so you've got to find something to make them interesting. And what I would do is I'd just come up with little games or little exercises like this that just to make it fun. And one thing I would do is while climbing, I'd just kind of develop these little boulder pumps that I'd climb in and out of, practice them over and over again, and then I'd try and do them with my eyes closed. That's one thing I do among a whole bunch of others. But so I'll try and do one here. What I like about this sequence is that to do it really smoothly, your momentum never stops. You never have points where you stop your momentum and then start it again. With each move, you have a swing going, and you capitalize on that swing for the next move. And so by maintaining it, you don't ever have to reinitiate it.
And doing something you like to do, you put out all your energy in a different direction. And then when you return to climbing and put out your energy back into climbing, it's fresh again. It's a shift of focus. And it also, I think it's hard when you're always talking climbing. I mean, it's fun for a climbing trip or for a short period of time, but to always be living and talking climbing, I think can be wearing. And if you, too much of a good thing.
What are my advantages? Well, I think I can follow my goals in a more relaxed way than the younger ones. I hope I can credit myself for not being overly ambitious. If I know that I can do a hard route, it just doesn't matter if I have to go there one more time to do it. I can approach it in a relaxed way.
Ich wusste, ich kann es irgendwann klettern. Dann kann ich das in Ruhe angehen.
What is so scary?
Yeah.
Nothing special. It's the problem is that you have to jump all your body.
Yeah.
But
you're used to this in Fontainebleau, aren't you?
Yes, in Fontainebleau it's okay, but you have the ground, so you know you can in your mind you can know exactly. Okay, you try the move, you fall, you down in the ground, but everything is in your mind. When you do the move or Mikasa, you jump everything, but after it's air, it's nothing.
But it's not so far above the
bolt. No, the bolt is in your feet when you do the route. The bolt, and but it's just, I mean, it's just impressive, and also it's because the move is very hard. So
it's also because you can't control the move.
Yeah. That's
wouldn't be so bad if you could control it. Even
but if you can control, you have no. I mean, it's not impressive. The problem is you are out of control totally. I didn't try for 1 year. It's for that. The first time you are a little, it's little difficult, and after the second time it's finished. After I feel okay. First time it's a little. You have to remember the feeling of like that jump all your body and fall. But after the second time it's okay. You learn the routes and it's okay.
We've had triumphs, we've made some mistakes, we've had some seconds.
Flash of energy you have to give, and you can use what is really important is just to be able at one time, at one precise moment, just to like that, just put all your energy into one move. And that's what is so funny with Fontainebleau, because you have no constraints to do that. You just you have you start from the ground, you prepare yourself, and you prepare to give all your energy at one time, and you have just to move, and then just do it. It's quick, it's simple, it's something like just moves, just climbing, no other things, no protection, no problem if you fall. It's just you have to do the move. c'est dur.
Vielleicht, dass es bei mir letztes Jahr so war, dass ich immer so mich nicht definitiv für irgendwas entschieden habe, sondern eben
I had the problem last year that I didn't make definite decisions to either do hard routes or competitions. I tried to do a hard route here, but then a competition came up and I tried to prepare for that. I never felt really satisfied with the outcome of both. Now I know that you can't compete on the international scale and do hard routes in the Frankenjura at the same time.
Auch bei keinem richtigen Erfolg hatte. Und deswegen habe ich mir eben in dem Winter auch klar das Ziel gesetzt, nächstes Jahr erstmal schwere
With this in mind,
Routen zu klettern.
I made a conscious decision last fall to concentrate on hard routes here in the Frankenjura. Hard routes here are never more than 10 to 15 really hard moves long and take about 2 minutes to climb. That means you have to increase your maximum strength. Starting January, I did 6 weeks of hypertrophy, 3 weeks of transition with pyramids, and 3 to 4 weeks of intramuscular coordination or recruitment training. After that, I started bouldering again to transfer the strength gain to a harder route.
Wie lange wärmst du dich eigentlich dafür auf, bis du jetzt mal intensiv trainierst?
How do you warm up? 20 to 30 minutes just with climbing.
Jetzt achtet man ja viel mehr auf Schwächen.
Now I look much more for weaknesses. In former times we just said, oh yeah, power, I need a lot of it. We didn't even know what weaknesses are. I think much more in scientific categories now, because it's pretty much known what you have to do to increase your strength. With my training I have total control about what I want to work on. I do these basic exercises to work on the issues I want to improve, with various loads and intensities depending on what phase of training I'm in. I'm also absolutely injury-free since I started doing this kind of training. If you just go bouldering for strength gain, there's always a lot of peer pressure that just makes you want to do these problems, regardless of how bad they are for your tendons, etc. If you do this all winter, you might finish your winter preparation training with some injuries already.
Viel mehr beansprucht, als wenn ich jetzt daheim zum Beispiel kontrolliert meine Haltezeiten habe und da schon auch volle Kraft gibt und alles was da ist, aber es ist eben, sind keine so fingertötenden Handhaltungen, also so spitz gehalten, also so senkrecht rausgehaltene Griffe, an denen man dann furchtbar oft rumzerrt. Oder daheim habe ich halt bloß dann eben diese Haltungen an den Fingerkuppen oder eigentlich fast nichts irgendwie gestellt, sondern immer nur lang.
To transfer the strength gain onto the cliff, I rebuilt my project as much as possible. In the route you actually get it more like that, and you have to turn it like that. But that's difficult to simulate. Then I go to that intermediate as in the route and try to turn it with this pumping motion.
Oh, fuck. In der Route kriegst du mehr so eigentlich. Du musst ihn dann so reindrehen, aber das ist schwer zu modellieren.
Also ich habe es halt nicht irgendwie hingekriegt. Und jetzt mache ich es, jetzt nehme ich ihn halt schon ein bisschen seitlich schon. Lang hier hin. Auch so ungefähr wie der Zwischengriff dort ist. Und dann versuche ich halt, den dann papp so hinzudrehen. Halt mit so einer Pumpbewegung. Wie in der Tour auch.
Ich glaube schon, dass ich von den Grundvoraussetzungen
I
her...
think I'm talented for climbing, since I have a lot of natural finger strength to start with.
Das ist, glaub ich,
Finger
auch der
strength is a limiting factor.
Wenn man,
You can't improve it as much as big muscle group strength. It's not only the finger strength, but also their anatomy, and how injury-prone you are that is important. I feel I'm talented in this regard. I used to compete in gymnastics for a very long time. I always was athletic, and doing Taekwondo for a really long time helped my flexibility.
Auch so wettkampfmäßig und exzessiv. Und dann, ich habe eigentlich immer Sport gemacht. Zum Schluss, also vor dem Klettern habe ich Taekwondo gemacht.
Yeah, in the fall I started splitting my training into endurance days and power days. And my power days were on-sighting the plastic routes that were harder, and then getting on the campus board and doing a lot of bouldering. And then the endurance days, I'd stay on the wall for up to 45 minutes, just constant up and down, and then for my partner, I would switch. And then I'd do, possibly 3 sets of those in an evening.
How hard would you climb during your 45 minutes on?
Just hard enough to keep the light pump, but not so hard that you just had to all out stop climbing or you fell. So, not too hard. Anything up to easy 511 probably. And then toward the spring, I started to do more power endurance and trying to do both those on the same day, and then doing more days in a row. So I really am kind of experimenting with different
And then
ways.
back when you were doing the power and the endurance, on the different days,
Yeah.
were you going like 2 days on at a time? Or if so, which day was the power and which was the endurance?
Usually the power was the first day, with the endurance being the second. Yeah. And then a lot of times I would try and have, if I was 2 weeks out from a specific competition, I would try and train harder the second week away than the week of the competition. I always give myself 2 rest days and sometimes 3 rest days before the competition too.
12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Dead point to another 2-finger pocket. And sticking that's pretty hard because you really have very little time. If you miss it or anything like that, you have to have precision accuracy right into it.
Went to the top, went to another one, very small, went down, went up again, went down again, tried on the move, and I linked the whole thing without...
Tu vas, Steph?
The hole with puff and and because you have to draw it. I'm not sure the condition will be enough.
The whole white section of the route is really technical, but you basically have okay rests between the really hard sections. getting up through about the 5th or 6th bolt is about 13A. You know, got a couple crux moves on some real small edges. Another little pocket that we call the thimble that you can fit kind of 1.5 fingers in, just about a half digit. Got kind of a strenuous pull up on that. Then you get a rest down at kind of the first real chalky holds you can see down there. You get a pretty good rest. You do kind of a technical traverse on some real thin edges. And then you have the crux, which the crux of that pitch, which some really non-positive holds. Like if you fall off, even on top rope, you can't really pull back into them because they're so non-positive. But basically, you make a real long reach to a kind of a pinch, this kind of wedge on the wall. Then you get another long reach to a pocket that you can get your ring finger in, about 3/4 of the pad. Your middle finger just kind of sits right on the lip of it, and you really have to crimp that and really extended position on all this because there's a lot of blank rock in between you. You stand up on this little crystal and make kind of a tiny dino to a pretty good edge. That move's real hard. You have to really feel, you know, for me, I pretty much have to feel completely fresh to do that move. After that, you've got about 20 feet of probably the easiest climbing on the route up to kind of a big rounded ledge. And that's where you rest before starting the strenuous upper section. First time I saw it, I thought, wow, this is really much better rest than I expected, just because the hold looks fairly large. But the problem is the footholds there aren't really under the hold, so you're never really standing upright. And you know, it's still steep enough that you can't drop your hands. And it's rounded enough that, you know, it's not a complete rest or anything like that. After that, it's kind of a gradual, ever-increasing difficulty to the top, basically. You've got a few bolts worth of climbing as it starts to get steeper and steeper. Maybe 12D section in there to get up to some pretty good holds before it all gets completely hard to the top. What's neat about it is you've got so many different types of climbing. So right at this point, for example, we're about 20 feet into the purple. At that point, you've got about 10 feet of climbing on tiny crimpers, really small holds, especially for that angle. And yeah, tiny crimping, little edges, kind of long reaches on them. That's the part I've never really been able to do without grunting. The crimpy section, yeah, definitely has the second hardest single moves for me. Then you get up to this pocket. It's on the photo of Jibei on Climbing Magazine. You can get a little shake there, but not much. You're not really going to get a whole lot back there. And from then, you clip basically the last bolt you're going to be able to clip on the route. And from there, you've got to punch it to the top. And that's where it's really exciting, because it starts off with what's probably the third hardest moves on the route from me. Long reach to a 2-finger pocket. You have a little crimp. It's pretty steep here, and you have to make this dead point to another 2-finger pocket. And sticking that's pretty hard, because you really have very little time. You know, if you miss it or anything like that, you have to have precision accuracy right into it. Then from then, it's like long reaches to a side pull, a step up and kind of a dead point to another edge where it's really easy to have your feet cut loose, which is a problem. Another long reach to a side pull. Then the very last 2 moves of the route have the potential to be true heartbreakers, because they're really small edges. The first one you grab, I mean, basically, on a later move you stand up on it as a foothold, and it's a terrible foothold. But as a handhold, it's even worse, and it's pretty steep there. Fortunately, you don't have to move very much off of it. You just kind of grab it and reach. You don't really have to pull your body up. But the hold you reach to is pretty bad too. You high step on a decent edge and make kind of a reach across to the final jug. But it's really easy to imagine falling off the last moves. And at that point, you'd basically fall the entire length of the purple section of rock, basically the length of the upper pitch. So that's a factor too. I mean, the intimidation is definitely a factor in terms of working the route, climbing the route. It takes time up there to get used to that. And if you're not really comfortable and willing to take the fall, until you are comfortable or willing to take the fall, you're not going to be able to do it. You're not going to be able to be relaxed enough to move fluidly enough to be efficient.
Did your attitude towards the climb change?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, probably about the third day, I was feeling really cheery because, we'd done all the moves, and the moves weren't so bad. And if it were like any other climb, I was thinking, well, a few more days and I'll be ready to red point, because, normally, if you can do the moves, it's not so long before you're ready to start linking if you're in okay shape. But on this, it's so long that the fatigue that you get just adds up exponentially the higher you get on the route. So, having a section like you have at the top of that route, if it were on the ground, it wouldn't be so bad, but having it where it is, after so much hard climbing, basically by now, I'm much more realistic maybe than I was after, say, about 3 days, when I thought it was only a matter of a few more days.
Yeah, what do you think now? When will you be able to climb it?
Well, I don't even really think about it now, because it would be kind of a depressing thought, especially since I'm going back to Salt Lake in a couple days. What I think about instead is I just try and set little goals, for what I want to do the next day, or maybe the next 2 days. And I just try and take increments of progress from where I'm at right now.